Yes! 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 No! What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So this is kind of a weird review feel because earlier in the season, if we had played like we did today, walked away with the 3-1 result, I probably would have been a little upset because it's a win, but it wasn't a great performance. There were definitely a lot of issues with it. But because we just were on a run of 5 games without a win, this win suddenly feels like a drop of water in the desert. It feels so relieving to get a win, even though, I mean, granted, if we play this way on Saturday against City, we're not getting a win out of that. I mean, I'm one of the people, I don't think Man City are on the comeback trail. I think they've had a good run of fixtures recently. They played out of the 4 matches, all 4 were bottom half of the table. Brentford were probably the only team that are not relegation threatened, and then they couldn't even beat them. And then they beat Leicester, Ipswich, West Ham. I know we didn't beat Ipswich, but all 3 of those teams are teams that you should be beating as a top half Champions League chasing side. Their next 7 matches are all top half of the table except for one team, which is Tottenham. And Tottenham have beaten them twice this year. So I don't think this is a comeback for City. That being said, if we play like we did today, we're not winning on Saturday. It's not a good performance. But Wolves are a terrible side. So thankfully we did just enough to get through with 3 points. I got to look at both sides of it. I have to look at the issues that we did have today because there were several, and I'll start with Maresca. He's starting to lose my trust. I mean, if we turn it around, if we start to get some wins here over the next run of matches and we pop back up into the top 4 and we're looking comfortable again, then I'll be okay with him. But we've had a run of 5 games without a win, and then you come out in this one and no Sancho, no Felix. You go with Madueke after his terrible performance against Bournemouth, and you go with Dewsbury-Hall for the first time this season. I'm sorry, there's no defending that. If we hadn't picked up the win today, it would have been that far away from me starting to go Maresca out. Because it does take a lot for me to get to that point, but if we had gone 6 without a win, and our 6th match was against a team like Wolves at home, and we play Dewsbury-Hall and Madueke, and we don't get the win, I would have been livid. I would have been almost calling for his head. I would have said one more game like this, and I want him out. Because looking at those 2 guys, first of all, for Madueke, if you're playing him over Neto, that's one thing, because I know Neto has not been in the greatest run of form either. A lot of people have been calling him out for his goals and his assists or lack thereof, but I still think his overall play has been impressive enough. It's been dangerous. It's been giving us help down that right side. But I understand if you want to try to get a guy in who maybe can get you some goals every now and then, even though he hasn't been since the Wolves game, really, the first one. But Sancho, in my opinion, he's been playing well, not necessarily in the goals and the assists either, but he's still been creative. He's still created some of our best chances over the past set of games. So to go without him in this match made no sense to me, really. And especially in the first half, whenever Madueke is on the ball so much, I'm thinking if Neto's out there, we might be a little bit more effective down that right side because he wasn't doing hardly anything with it. And then on the left side, whenever the ball got out to Neto, I thought we needed somebody with a little bit more cleverness. I don't know if that's the right word, but just somebody who could play a little bit better with Cucurella on that side, because I don't think Neto and Cucurella were combining very well. And I think Sancho and Cucurella do. So it just felt like the wings were really killing us today. But the other thing that hurt us as well is you don't have Fernandez. So now the guy you've got going up alongside Palmer, whenever we do get up in the attack, is Dewsbury-Hall. And that's really where we had basically nothing in the middle of the pitch. They packed so many players in there, and Palmer got the attention of most of those guys because nobody's going to put 2 or 3 guys on Dewsbury-Hall. There's going to be one guy who's somewhat within the vicinity, and then as soon as he gets on the ball, step to him, put some pressure on. The best he could do is put in a cross. So we just lacked a lot of creativity up front today, and I do think those decisions are on Maresca. But thankfully, didn't hurt us in the end. We still managed to get the 3 points. I will say the subs as well were a little odd. The Sancho one would have absolutely had me fuming had we not just scored prior to that. But taking off Neto over Madueke, Neto wasn't great today. I'm not going to sit here and say he was phenomenal, but Madueke was awful. Yes, he ends up with the assist of the first or the second goal, and then the goal for the third one. But I mean, first of all, the goal. He heads it. Actually, he steals it from Chalobah, which also upsets me a little bit more. But outside of that one cross that he put in for the second goal, didn't really create much of anything today. Most of the time, he was the one that was open, but that's because Wolves saw he didn't have anything. He didn't offer us anything today. So they were perfectly happy to give him 10, 15 yards of space out there because as soon as he gets on the ball, you know it's not going to go anywhere. You know it's not going to turn into a chance because he can't do anything on it. So the fact that Neto's the first one off over Madueke, to me, is a weird decision. And then he brings on Disasi and Gusto, and I don't know what that's about. Bringing James off, okay, you're trying to rest him, I get that. But that should be Gusto on for James, not Disasi. And then Gusto comes on for Dewsbury-Hall, pushes Cucurella into the middle and puts Gusto on the left side. I don't understand that. I do not understand any of those decisions because the game was not dead at that point. It was still only 3-1. We only have a 2-goal lead. We give up one. There was still like 14, 15 minutes left in the game at that point. Game's not dead and dusted. There's no reason to be putting on one of your worst center backs and also another defender who's not had a great season and putting him in out of position as well. It just seemed like a weird choice. And it definitely had me nervous going into the final 15 minutes. The final sub I thought was okay. George on for Madueke, give the young guy a chance to run a little bit, and then Felix on for Palmer. I think that's fine. I think we need to be more willing to sub Palmer off. I know he wants to keep him on because, yes, he's one of our best players, and there's a chance he could create something out of nothing. But at the end of the day, he does need to rest too. He does need to be taken off because he's also getting kicked a lot. Players are putting in a lot of tough challenges on him. He needs a chance to take a break. He needs a chance to rest his legs so that way we can keep using him and keep having him be effective. But now going into individuals, first of all, Sanchez. I've said this before, I do not blame him for his passing. At the end of the day, he is not a good passer of the ball. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. The whole league, fans from other teams, everyone knows he's not a good passer of the ball. So why do we keep using him for his feet? Unnecessarily. It's not like we have no other options. We're under a lot of pressure. Let's go backwards all the way to our keeper. No, there's options out there. But you know what? Let's put it back at Sanchez's feet. Let's draw them out to us onto us. They'll put a lot of high pressure. We're not good passers of the ball in defense, but let's do that so that way we have a chance to give the ball away and then maybe give up a goal. We're playing into that. We're playing into using him for his feet. So I'm not going to blame him for his passing because we should not be using him for his feet, but we do anyway. So that's on Maresca or the defense or whoever's making the decision to play it back to Sanchez. That's on them. Whenever he makes a mistake passing, that's on them. However, I cannot defend the goal. That was terrible. The one thing he's been pretty solid at is shot stopping, is commanding his box. That was terrible. And there's something to be said about how much pressure is being put on keepers because there is an argument to be made. I coached keepers at the high school, college level, so I do have an issue with the fact that players are basically allowed to just get in on the keeper as they're going up for the ball because they can't defend themselves like outfield players can. If you're an outfield player, you're jumping up with your arms out to keep players off of you. If you're a keeper, you're jumping with your hands up, which means now players can just get into your rib section. You're unprotected. There was a little bit of contact. The one guy kind of threw his arm right into his chest. I do have an issue with that, and I do think that needs to be looked at. In my opinion, a great rule change would be opposition players are not allowed to enter the 6-yard box until the ball's been kicked. I know it's going to upset a lot of Arsenal fans because that's basically how their whole season is gone, is they just put a ton of pressure on the keeper. It's causing a lot of stoppage of play as well because it feels like we always have to stop. The referee has to come in, talk to people, tell them to stop shoving, blah, 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 and it takes up so much time. So just take the players out. Get them out of the 6-yard box. They cannot enter it until the ball's been kicked. End of discussion. We don't have to worry about keepers shoving, players shoving other players off the keeper. We don't have to worry about any of that. But with that being said, Sanchez has to be smarter. Punch it away. Don't try to catch it there. You're under so much pressure. There's so much going on around you. You get rid of it. You punch it out. You don't try to catch it there. So while I'm not happy with the current state of how things work on corners, I cannot defend Sanchez's decision there. I think it's a dumb decision, and it cost us a goal and put us under a lot of pressure. Into the defense, James on the right side, I thought looked pretty good today. A little bit more solid than he looked against Bournemouth, in my opinion. There are still moments whenever he does look a little bit too slow to release or to play, and he invites too much pressure onto himself. And he's a very clever player. He's got a lot of technical skill on the ball. However, there are so many teams that press high and press hard and put one or two players on you whenever you're on the ball. He can't afford to play that slow anymore. And especially with how we are currently, with how the current state of our performances have gone, we need to be more progressive with our passing. We need to be more urgent with it. Because what's been our issue? We score a goal and then we just sort of sit back and we invite the pressure on. The other team steps up, gets the momentum, and then they score a goal. It's happened against Fulham. It's happened against Bournemouth. It's happened against Palace. We let that happen. We let them basically come on to us after having a great performance in the first half. And honestly, in this one, it was we scored the goal, and then from then on, to the end of the first half, it was pathetic. So James is not the only one doing it, but he's definitely a big part of it, and especially as the captain, he should be one of the ones leading it. He should be one of the ones knocking it around, getting it moving quickly, so that way when that pressure does come, it's not we're standing on it, we're on our heels, and we're not ready for the press, and so they can nick it off of us. We should be on our toes, ready to play, getting it around them quickly, moving the ball quickly, not just standing on it, not just taking 5 touches as somebody's putting pressure on you and then eventually just having to kick it out of bounds because you've got no other options. Tosin on the right side of the center, I thought had another good performance. Again, it blows my mind that for some reason Achimpong started over him against Bournemouth. Nothing against Achimpong. I think he's done very well for a young player, but Tosin's the finished product. He just is. I do wish he had a bit more leadership quality about him. I do wish he was a bit more of an organizer because he is the most experienced defender out of our back line. But at the end of the day, his defensive capabilities are quality. Makes a lot of great challenges, a lot of great last-ditch tackles as well. Blocks the ball. He's a beast in the air. Gets himself a goal today as well. So I really expect him to play more often. That being said, with Chalobah back, it's going to be kind of interesting to see who gets that starting spot once Colwill's back. Because I do think the 3 of them are probably our first team choices now. It's between Colwill, Chalobah, Tosin. So it'll be interesting to see, because Colwill will probably take the left side. So it'll be between Chalobah and Tosin to see who plays on that right side. And I don't know who would get the start, but I think Tosin's definitely putting in a good shout for himself to get the start. Chalobah on the left side, great return performance for him. And what makes it even better for me is it does really show the stupidity of letting him go. I know people will talk about for Gallagher with Atletico Madrid, it's a different league, so you can say, oh, well, he's doing well there. Who's to say he would be performing like that for us? But for Chalobah, I mean, he's been playing pretty well for Palace. I know they haven't had a great season, but whenever he's played, the few games that I've caught, he's been one of their more influential players. And even today, you saw how many challenges he's making. He should have had a goal, if not for Madueke stealing it from him. And he's scored a couple of really good goals for us in the past. But he's a threat in the box on corners. He's really good defensively. Passing, he looks comfortable. I just do not understand the reasoning for letting him go out on loan at the beginning of the season. I truly do not. When you look at the fact that we kept Badiashile, we kept Disasi, I know people will disagree with me on this, but I think he's a better option than Fofana. I don't think Fofana's been that good for us this year. I think Chalobah looks good. And this is a great first performance to kind of kick in the teeth of anyone who said letting him go was a good decision or that we could afford to let him go. It was stupid, and this is why. Cucurella on the left side looked better today. He's had a little bit of a rough spell recently where he's been just very aggressive, very energetic, but not a whole lot of quality about his defense or his attack. Today was a lot more what I expect to see from him. He's putting in good challenges to keep the other team from having a chance to break out. And on the ball, he's keeping it moving pretty well. He's not dawdling on it too long. Caicedo in the midfield looks solid for the most part. A couple of maybe lazy touches is the best word to use. Or just it felt like it was a little too easy of a pass or a little too long on the ball. And it was picked off of him or somebody picked off his pass. So just a couple of moments like that throughout. But his defensive work rate, as always, was phenomenal. Being the only midfielder in there, really, in front of our back line, I thought he handled it very well. Dewsbury-Hall. I'm going to try not to be mean, but my God, I don't know why he played today. He got himself an assist, so good for him. I mean, just talk about having no impact on the game. Defensively, I don't really remember him making any great challenges that was winning the ball back for us in dangerous positions. Most of the time, he was making fouls to keep them from breaking out. Okay. Most anybody can do that. And then on the ball, had a couple of decent crosses, not great, but at least put into a dangerous area for somebody to attack. But the lack of creativity was apparent. You know, when you think about the fact that João Felix could have been out there over him, I'm looking at it going, yeah, it's no wonder that Palmer was double and triple teamed today because, again, you don't need to put that many players on Dewsbury-Hall. because you just put one defender on him. Most of the time, that's enough to stop him. So I don't understand. I don't understand why we bought him to begin with, outside of, well, we want to sign somebody from Leicester to make Maresca happy. But why? Why do we have to sign somebody from Leicester? They just came up from the Championship. Are there really any players there that are going to make us better? No. And especially when you think about he was signed to replace Gallagher, Gallagher's a better option. Then into the front four. First, we'll start with Madueke because this might be the most controversial one, because I feel like the fact that he got a goal, the fact that he put in the good cross for the second goal, I feel like most people are going to look at it and say, he did fine today. He was awful again. And this is not bias against him. Maybe it is a little bit because I am sick of seeing him. But, I mean, how many times is he going to get into the final third and just waste chances? He should have been subbed at halftime, honestly, because the amount of times that he was on the ball in the first half and nothing was created from it, it's despicable. You should not have that much time and space as a winger and not create at least a slightly dangerous chance. The most we would get out of him is a corner. It's honestly very much reminded me of Hudson-Odoi, because that's kind of how he was, more so toward the end of his Chelsea career before we moved him on. It just felt like anytime he got on the ball and he got into these dangerous positions, the best I could hope for, get a corner, please. Just at least kick it off the defender, get a corner, because then we can be possibly a little dangerous. That's what Madueke was today. Anytime he got on the ball, I never had any hope that we were going to get a good chance out of it. And outside of the one chance that turned into the second goal, we didn't. We didn't create anything from his side because I don't know. It's not like he's not capable of it. We've seen him do it before, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's his mentality. I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know if it's just a lack of effort right now. I will say defensively, there was a for sure lack of effort today, because there were several moments whenever it was so easy for Wolves where we put that little bit of a high press on, and then Madueke just sort of goes running at the defender. They poke it past him. Done. You're past Madueke, and now you get free run of the field and just charge down our right side. And it's a 2v1 against James, basically. So defensively, I have to say there was a lack of effort from him today. But on the ball, it just feels like, I don't know if he thinks it's too easy, and so he doesn't really put forth all of his effort, and so we don't see good crosses, we don't see good chances taken. Once again, there were several moments whenever he has the option there, and instead of passing, he decides, I'm going to go down the line and try to cross it in, or I'm going to cut inside and have a shot, and it's not on. But there's just too many moments where he's wasting our best chances. So I really hope the fact that he was responsible for the second, again, the third one, I can't even say he was responsible for. He was just happening to be there, but it would have gone in, even if he hadn't been there to head it in. But I'm hoping that doesn't taint the view of Madueke today and suddenly make people go, nah, he had a great game, because he didn't. He was one of our worst players today up front, and as many people want to blame Jackson for his misses and his wasted chances, I think Madueke is just as responsible for how many times he's wasted chances for us this season. Palmer, quiet game, but like I said, he was basically alone in the middle behind the striker today. So unfortunate for him, but he's not going to have a lot of games like this. And I think once Fernandez gets back from injury, or as soon as Maresca learns to trust Felix in there, I think we'll see a lot better performances from him. Neto, like I said before, I'm not going to sit here and say that he was one of our best players to try to justify why I was frustrated with Sancho coming on for him over Madueke. He was frustrating at times with how long he would dawdle on the ball, how long he would just wait and take touches, dribble, and then he makes a pass that was there 3 or 4 touches ago. He did put in a couple of decent crosses, and that's something that I've noticed with him whenever he plays down that left side. He actually does do well to get crosses in from that side, but I still think he looks a lot more natural on the right. I still think he looks a lot more dangerous on the right too. You could argue maybe that's why he wasn't as good today, because he's not playing on his natural side, but I still think there were moments when he should have done a lot better on the ball. Jackson up front was kind of isolated today. A couple of moments maybe he should have done better. I thought the chance in the first half when he blocks the defender and he's basically one-on-one with the last defender coming across, takes a bad touch and gives it away. Maybe should have done a bit better there. Overall, it was not a great game for him, not because of his performance, but because of the way Wolves were set up. They were set up to not be open in behind, which is where he typically does very well. And they made sure they had both defenders really in tight and tucked in on him, so that way whenever he got on the ball, he didn't have a whole lot of time to create anything with it. The one thing I will say is there's the offside that he had in the second half. I am glad he at least put it in the net, because that's one of those where he's offside. Everybody knows he's offside, but you still want to see him put it in. You still want to see him score. So that way, in case there was something we missed that actually he was onside, but also just for confidence sake. He's missed so many of those chances where it's one-on-one with the keeper. He should be doing better. So it's just nice to see him at least tuck it away. And then next time, whenever he times that run a bit better, hopefully he'll do the same thing. Hopefully that little bit of, I've done this before, let me do it again, will come into his game and we'll see him score. But I still am of the opinion that he does need to get a goal soon, not because I think he's a terrible player. I'm definitely not one of those people that are just hating on Jackson right now and calling for him to be replaced with another striker, because I still think there's a lot about his game that is impressive and helps us as a team overall. But I do think for his confidence sake, because we saw earlier this season when he was full of confidence, scoring almost every match. But now his confidence is gone. And so now the goals have dried up for him. So I do think he needs to get that goal to get the confidence back into him. And hopefully we'll see him maybe against City. City are going to step out a little bit more. They're going to give him a lot more room and behind to run. So maybe that'll be the game where we finally see him come back into it. The overall, looking specifically at today, I do think Wolves played the game well to make sure he was not nearly as effective as he has been even over the past few matches without the finishing. Looking at the subs that came on, Sancho was really the only one that was brought on with enough time to affect anything, and I thought he could have done a little bit better. There were a couple of moments where he was on the ball in a dangerous position, did well to work himself a little bit of space in the final third, but then the final decision, like I've been saying for the past few games actually, just wasn't quite good enough. Whether he should have taken a shot and he didn't, or whether he looked like he was about to have a shot and then decided against it, took another touch, and now he's trying to play a pass that's not on anymore. I do feel like that final decision is where he needs to speed things up a little bit more. And the more he plays, the more he'll find himself in that position, and hopefully the better decisions will come with time. But where people have been blaming Jackson for all the misses and that's why we haven't been winning all of that, how many goals have our wings scored recently? Not any. So you could look at them. You could look at Sancho, Neto, Madueke, all of them. They're also not getting the job done. So Sancho is one that I think has a lot of capability of doing so. So I'd like to see him get on the score sheet very soon. Disasi and Gusto, Disasi thankfully no major errors today, but definitely felt a lot less comfortable with him on that right side because there were a few moments where he's not as composed on the ball as James. And I know I talked about James playing slow, but with Disasi, it kind of feels like it's very rushed and not in a good way. It feels like his touch is rushed, and it's like he's nervous whenever he's on the ball, which makes a lot of us nervous when we watch him. But Gusto was out there, did okay, looked energetic, won the ball back a few times. I do want to see Gusto start to step up a little bit more because I thought he played really well last season. We needed him to step up, and I thought he did very well, but he's in a different system. He's playing wingback. Now he has to play an inverted fullback, and I just don't think that is his style of play. So whether he learns this role, whether he can get better at it, or whether Maresca just has to look at what he has and say, you know what, maybe we can't play this right now. Maybe I need to start utilizing him as a wingback more often. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But I do think he is definitely not the same quality of player that we saw last season because of the fact that he's not used to playing this position, and I don't think he has the qualities necessary to play in that type of position either. And then Felix and George, both of them came on with not that much time left, to be fair, so I can't really judge their performances, to be honest. Neither of them did anything really bad or really good. I do think Felix probably could have done a bit better at times because it felt like there were moments whenever we needed to keep possession. Wolves have a decent chance going forward. They have a lot of energy. Disasi's on the field. So there is a concern whenever we lose the ball, they might counter on us quickly. So there just were a couple of moments where Felix maybe tried something a little too clever, tried to meg a guy and then gave it away. Those were the moments where I get a little frustrated and just, hey, keep it simple. You see the pass that's right out there, just lay it out to him. No need to try to be clever with it. Keep it simple, stupid. It's classic advice, so just stick to it. But that's about it for all my thoughts on this one. Like I said, going into the Man City game, this performance doesn't necessarily give me hope that we're going to go into that game and win it. I still do think that Man City are in a bit of a a rough run for this season. I still don't think they're up to the level that we've seen them for the past few seasons. I think they're still going to struggle, especially over their next set of games. I look at us right now, and I think if we play like we have been playing, if we play with this lackadaisical, knocking it around the back, playing it to these players that don't have a good touch on the ball, can't pass, if we keep doing all of that against Man City, there's a good chance it could get ugly for us. But at the very least, I'm pretty sure this puts us back into the top 4, so that's good enough for now. But we definitely do need to continue on this form. We can't continue to drop points like we have been, or else it's going to be a very frustrating season for us overall. But with all that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the match today? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of reviews on here as well as some Let's Plays, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you all later. Peace out.